Welcome to the Indie KidLit podcast. Join Marty Dumas and Elena Page on their quest to help children's and middle grade authors find the right audience and sell more books.
Hello and welcome to the Indie KidLit podcast. I'm Elena Page.
And I'm Marty Dumas, and today we're joined with by a very special guest, Pip Reid. Pip Reid's the co-founder of Bible Pathway Adventures and the author of the Bible Pathway Adventures series. Always game for an adventure herself, Pip traveled through Africa, Asia, Europe, and the Americas before settling back in New Zealand to complete a Writing for Children diploma, which I'm not sure is one that we have here in the States, but I totally could be wrong for that. And also to embark on a career writing adventures that bring the Bible to life for parents and children around the world, and also penning articles to help other writers. Recently, she teamed up with Mark Dawson to write about how authors can use Pinterest effectively. And it is her Pinterest expertise in particular that we are hoping to be able to pick apart and suck up and absorb into ourselves today. Thank you so much for joining us, Pip.
Thanks, Marty. I'm so pleased to be here with you guys.
Yeah, thank you. So can you just kind of take us at the beginning here? We were talking a little bit off camera, but can you tell us a little bit about your journey to becoming a children's book author?
Sure. So I would say about 6 years ago, I was back living in Wellington, New Zealand, and working for a company called Learning Media, which was at the time New Zealand's largest educational publisher. And I got made redundant one day out of the blue. And so
I love that. That is such a not US term. I think of it as a Britishism, but apparently it's not. So made redundant. That's so lovely. Okay. I mean, it's for a sad thing, but so lovely. Okay, keep going.
What would you say?
What do you guys say?
We say got laid off or got fired. Those are, it's very blah, very flat.
And
cool.
fired are two different things. Laid off is, yeah.
Laid off is we still like you, but we don't have money to pay for you anymore, right? And fired is you stink and we don't want to pay you anymore. Okay.
No, I was made redundant, which means the company couldn't afford me anymore.
Okay. So it's so lovely. That's what I'm saying. I love that. I'm gonna try to make that happen in the States.
Yeah, well, sometimes you can get lots of money if you get made redundant, so it can be kind of a good thing. So I got made redundant. Company couldn't afford me and some others. And so once I finished there, I thought, you know what? I've always had this desire to write for children, and I've never really done anything about it. And now I have the time to do that. And so I went and registered, and over the period of 6 months, did a Writing for Children diploma by correspondence. And so I got a part-time job. And so in the mornings I would do my diploma, and in the afternoons I would do my job. I could work from home. And the good thing about the Writing for Children diploma is that it had different modules. And so you got to try different styles of writing. And the style that I really, really loved was bringing nonfiction to life. And so at the end of it, and even my tutor said, oh, this is your best module by far. And so I finished the diploma, and I started as some homework writing kind of Bible stories, but making them sort of come to life a little better. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to start writing like this and see what happens. And my boyfriend, now husband at the time, came up with this title, Bible Pathway Adventures. And he said, you could write a series of Bible stories under this brand called Bible Pathway Adventures. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds good. And he's like, and why don't we create an app? And I'm like, sure. I said naively, and the journey began. And that was about 4.5 years ago. And we've just been working diligently since then. And the brand is slowly built, and we've created more stories, and we've sort of branched out into supplementary educational materials. And it's just sort of gone from there. And now we're at a stage where, our website's getting probably 30,000 visitors a month. We've got 12 books in print. We've got an app. We've got downloadable activity books you can buy on our website, the printed books you can buy on Amazon. So, yeah, it's kind of, we just keeping on, and it just keeps developing as more people hear about us. And Pinterest has played a big part in growing brand awareness, if you want to put it like that. So yeah, that's a little bit.
That was like an elegant like slide us into the Pinterest thing, but I want to ask one more question before we actually get into the Pinterest part, which I assume we're going to end up spending a lot of time talking about, which is, did you ever consider trying to be traditionally published, or like your then boyfriend, now husband, was like, just do it yourself, and you were like, yeah, and it just like you never explored the trad pub option? What was that part of your journey like?
No, you know what? I never ever considered it. I mean, I just, for a couple of reasons. One, it would just take, even if you got a contract, it would just take so long to get to market, and you would get probably 10% royalty. And also the way we were writing the Bible stories, we were trying to keep them quite biblical. And to be honest, if you're working with a major sort of Christian publisher in North America, they often want to change some things to make it maybe a little more palatable. And so we didn't want to compromise what we were writing. And another reason was we actually started off focusing on an app. And you got to do the app yourself. And so the books kind of developed out of the app. And so that's why we never considered. And then as I started listening to podcasts and, technology starting to change, I got to the stage a couple of years ago. It's like, well, why would we approach a traditional publisher? We can just do it ourselves and develop partnerships. And the technology is there now to do it yourself. Sometimes you have to think a little bit outside the box, especially with kids stuff. But so does that answer your question, Marty?
No, it absolutely does. And also like that that mindset, I feel like it's like really great. Like it's really beneficial to be able to think like, okay, there's enough tools out there for me to be able to do this. It's just a question of me figuring out what the best way to like use those tools is. And so that probably has to do with a lot of your success on Pinterest as well, like being able to figure out how to make something like that work for yourself. Can you talk to us, but like not at this second, like the kind of expert that you are on Pinterest, right? Talk to us like you're me, who like kind of knows what Pinterest is and has a board that my son pinned a bunch of birthday things on. Like, how did you enter Pinterest, and like when did it transition over to being something that you were using as a marketing tool?
Sure. So 4 years ago when we started, we created, Bible Pathway Adventures, the brand. I started looking at which social media platforms we could use. And I wasn't really on social media myself, so I had to kind of start from scratch. And so through trial and error, I figured we could use Facebook, Instagram, Google Plus, and Pinterest, and they all provided different benefits. Everyone's on Facebook. Instagram is great for images, especially if you're writing for kids. Google Plus is good for SEO. Otherwise wouldn't bother with it. And Pinterest, I thought, well, it's a visual platform. At the time, I didn't realize how great it would be to send traffic to your website or author platform. And so I just started figuring out. I tried other things like Twitter or Tumblr but I just couldn't keep it up with Twitter. I was sort of getting bored of myself, and I'm like, oh, no, too much work. And Tumblr, I'm like, I don't think our audience is on Tumblr, because that was another thing. It's like, where's our audience? And we were figuring out where our audience was and who our audience is. So I started to realize that our audience was actually on Pinterest, because our audience is made up of homeschoolers and a lot of say Sunday school teachers and teachers in general. And so I thought, well, I'll give Pinterest a go. And so do you want me to talk about my journey of how I started to figure out Pinterest?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So at the beginning, I knew nothing. I thought, okay, well, we've got some images from our stories. I'll just put them up on Pinterest. And so that's literally what I did. I opened a Pinterest account and I created 1 or 2 boards, like, Bible Pathway Adventures illustrations, team, and something else. And I would just whack up our illustrations. So there'd be these small little horizontal images that really didn't stick out in the news feed. And then I would, anything like our cartoon faces that we created for the team, anything that I thought was kind of, fun and colorful, I would put up there. And after a couple of months, I'm like, no, I'm not sure Pinterest is really working for us. It doesn't really seem to be doing much. And so then I actually nearly closed the account. I'm like, this is real, I don't know. And but then I started to read blogs and listen to podcasts, and I think that's a great thing. There's so much information out there, and you can always learn something. And so slowly I started to pick up these little nuggets. And so there are a couple of things that really changed the game for me using Pinterest. And one was using vertical images, not horizontal. So you basically get twice as much space in the newsfeed if you can do a vertical image, not a horizontal. And another idea I picked up was to create more boards, which sounds really elementary now, but I just didn't know at the time. And so I got the idea from another author actually to create boards for each of our stories. And then you can create place boards. And so I did that. And then the thing that really changed the game was realizing that you could add a URL to every image that you post, and that URL can be attached to anything you want. So it can take people back to your website, it can take people to Facebook, to Amazon, wherever you want them to go. And then I think actually there's a fourth thing that really changed the game, and that was we started creating coloring pages. And the coloring pages turned into word search puzzles, turned into quizzes. So we started creating all this supplementary educational material that kind of was complementary to the Bible stories. And so each time I would put one of those on the website, it was like I was creating a blog post. But instead of like writing 300 words, I would just put an image, like, you know, a PNG that was in the dimensions of US letter. And so people could click on it and print it out at home, and it would print out, you know, perfectly on their printer. And so what I realized I could do is I could put up something on our website, say put up a Bible quiz, say, you know, Noah's Ark Bible quiz, and then I could go to Pinterest and put up the same image and link it to that blog post or that quiz on the website. And so I started doing that, and that's when we really saw traffic increase. So yeah, it was just a number of things. You know, it's one thing led to another. And then I started to look at the Pinterest analytics, and the main source of traffic was all that supplementary educational stuff that we were doing. I mean, the Bible stories and the images, they were sending traffic, but it was the useful supplementary activities that offered a lot of value that was driving people to our website to download the activities themselves. So we were creating a lot of value, and not a lot of other people were doing that, and they still really aren't. So yeah, that was
Can I ask?
I feel so stupid now.
No, can I ask? Like taking a step back for a moment, you know, like looking at Pinterest as a platform and understanding who uses it. Like, what are people using Pinterest for? Like, do you know what I mean? So I'm thinking now, just stepping kind of into the user experience. Are they like mums or like I have Pinterest, and my daughter makes little boards, and I'm like, why do people want pictures for? You know, like, so what is the person who goes on Pinterest? Are they like the supplementary material stuff's brilliant? I'm sure we'll have 1,000 questions about that. But the person who's using Pinterest, are they like, you know, you go on Facebook to kind of see what your friends are doing? What's the logic of the person that goes on Pinterest? What are they looking for? Well,
Pinterest is a search engine. So people go on to find stuff, basically. So you get a lot of, I'd say majority of Pinterest users are women. And between the ages of like 25 and 50, I think that's the majority of users. And they go on to find information. So because they would go on, say they look for recipes, they could look for wedding dresses. I mean, in a way, it's kind of like Google Images, but sort of better. And then what you can do is if you see something you like, an image you like, you can pin it to a board. And so it's like a online scrapbook, you know, and often the images are linked to our website, so you can go on and get more information. So you might, in our case, you might say get a Sunday school teacher in Minnesota, and she's looking for activities to go with her class that she wants to teach on Noah's Ark. So she'll go on and she might type in Noah's Ark activities or Noah's Ark quiz, and up will come up a whole lot of, images of activities, and she can, see what she likes. She can pin it to her own board. She can click through, and hopefully it takes her to the website where she can find that image or that activity. So really, you got to think of Pinterest as a search engine. It's not just a social media platform. And so, yeah, it's really a visual collection of ideas. And so people go on for inspiration. So for example, when I got married 2 years ago and I wanted to build a sort of a hooper structure on our deck, I went on and I created a secret board, which is a board that no one can see. And then because it was kind of quite different to what Bible Pathway Adventures was doing, and I just put a collection of images and then had a look at them and for ideas. And then my husband went and built something but we got our ideas from looking at what you could find on Pinterest. Does that make sense, Eleanor?
That's awesome. Yeah, like that's changed my whole perception of Pinterest. Like to me, it's like, yeah, there's pictures. That's great. That's fun. I use it for a week, then I get off it. But looking at it as a search engine is like, oh, my brain is just exploding. And it makes sense now how you've used it and why it's helped your business. So I'm sure Marty has 1,000 questions, but I'll just lead into that and then hand it back over to her. Going back to now, apart from adding your pictures, which is, still fabulous to do because it's visually brings people back to your books, the resources part has been the part that really is a fantastic way of getting new readers, new people. So tell us a bit more about that. Like, how do you come up with some of your ideas of what to put up there? Like, and if I could add, can you tell us the dimensions of how you should put these things up there?
Sure. Well, okay, where to start? So start with the, I'm just trying to think. So the ideas for the resources. Okay, so I don't know. I started off with coloring pages. And so every time we created a story, we would get our illustrator to create like maybe 6 coloring pages to go with each story. And so it was a nice little add-on. So people could go download the app or read the story on our website, and then they're looking for some supplementary activities, so they could then go and download the coloring pages. And on each coloring page, we had, Bible Pathway Adventures. So it was just a way of getting our brand out there and providing some useful content. And then I started, I don't know, and then I thought, well, what else could we create? So then I started creating word search puzzles and crossword puzzles. And then I started creating quizzes. Quizzes, honestly, they provide so much value and are so useful to our target audience. They are shared. I mean, some of our quizzes have been shared like 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 times because there's something that it makes life easy for the homeschooler, for the teacher, and it really is value. And and on each of those resources that we create, we put our brand and our website. And so it's sort of one thing leads to another. And I don't know, you look around the internet, you get ideas, and then you make it your own, And the one thing that we were able to do, and this is, I think, what children's book authors can do if they've got illustrations, is we got our illustrator to start layering up the illustrations. So what I mean is he creates illustrations in Photoshop, and in Photoshop you work in layers. And so, you might have, say, an illustration with 5 characters. Well, each character is a separate layer. And what you can do with Photoshop is export out each individual layer. And so by doing that, it gave us a lot of assets to work with, a lot of intellectual property that was 100% owned by us. If you tried to buy this kind of clip art for commercial use, you would be paying like $80, $90, $100, a pop. So what I would do was I would get the images and I would decorate our resources. So they were very much, we've got a certain look to our resources now, and then we would pop them up. And so we found that people were enjoying our stuff. One, it was useful, but 2, it kind of looked good, and it was different, and it was, totally fit for purpose. So that's kind of how I got my ideas. It's just, being out there and getting feedback from people and seeing what others are doing and then kind of improving on it or not. So that was to answer the first part of your question, Eleanor. Does that?
That's fabulous. And then tell me, what size does that vertical image need to be?
Oh, okay. Well, I use a different size. So I generally, when I create our resources, I always create them in US letter, which I think is 8.5 inch by 11 inch.
That's great.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, but you can, I actually have all the Pinterest dimensions written down, but you can actually go online and find suitable Pinterest images. Or if you're using, say you might not have Photoshop, but you use like PicMonkey or Canva, you know, those online those websites where you can go and actually create images. They often have Pinterest specific images that you can use, or Pinterest specific sizes that you can use, but you always want to use the vertical, not the horizontal, because it'll give you twice as much space in the news feed. So yeah, with the resources, it's always US letter, because when people print it out at home, and the most of our audience is in North America, it kind of prints out real well. But equally, every now and then I'll go, if I'm creating something specifically for Pinterest, like maybe a banner that advertises our coloring pages, I'll have a look and just choose one of the vertical sizes that works well on Pinterest.
So then the link takes them to your website, and then the website has the PDF for them to print. Is that how that works?
Yeah, it's actually a PNG file.
PNG. Okay.
Or a JPEG file. Yeah, so what we do, so the process I have is I create a quiz and then I upload it to our website. We have an activities section on our website, and I break that down into, you know, recipes, quiz, word search, crosswords, flashcards, blah, blah, blah. And so I'll upload, say, a quiz to the quizzes section, and then I get the URL and I go over to Pinterest and I upload the image to Pinterest, and I put in the URL, and then I put a little description and I post it to Pinterest, and there you go. And so every time someone clicks on that quiz, it'll take them to that specific page on the website where they can download that quiz and use it at home. So does that make sense? I'm not sort of
brilliant. Yeah.
complicating things too much.
Yeah, no, thank you for explaining it. Yeah, it's great to just, you know, sometimes as you're listening, you're like, how do I do that? How do I do that?
Yeah, totally. Because that was the thing, that adding the URL was something I didn't realize that you could do at the beginning. But once you do that, and the thing is, if you have a website, you can actually get Google Analytics, and you can go on and see, you know, what people are clicking on, the most popular pages that they go to, the amount of traffic that Pinterest sends compared to Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or whatever. And which is great intelligence, because it's like, man, the people like the quizzes, let's create more quizzes. And so
that brings up so many things for me. So the first off being that like we have tons of like coloring sheets and teachers' guides. Like we don't have a Pinterest, so like that's dumb. Like we should, I mean, the wrong word, dumb.
I know. We're missing out, aren't we?
Like, you know, like that's obviously, because like not only that, but like if that traffic, first of all, that's like totally passive, right? So you put that up and then that's just going to be out there forever. I mean, the internet and Pinterest survive, right? But like, it'll just be out there, like passively steering people to your website. And if you have like tracking pixels in your website from like different, like that those tracking pixels are going to pick them up, even if they haven't necessarily come straight from them. So if you're using like tracking pixels to help support your, like if you do Google ads, or if you are using tracking pixels for like making audiences on Facebook, then like those will all work. Like if they've come through your website.
Something, Marty, the longevity is that puts Pinterest ahead of the game compared to say Instagram or Google Plus or Facebook, because, you know, even like some of my quizzes are like 3 years old on Pinterest and they're still being shared. It's amazing for that. They just, because it's a search engine, people might go on, and if your pin, say my quiz has been shared like 2,000 times, when people plug in, you know, Noah's Ark quiz, guess what pops up near the top?
Right, because
I posted 3 years ago. Yeah. And also another thing I thought I'd add is, when I post, say, a quiz to our website, we also make it very easy for someone to share that to Pinterest themselves. So not only am I posting to Pinterest, but I have other people who like our activities who are also posting to their Pinterest pages. And so you kind of have this double pinning thing going on. And so sometimes I'll just look around Pinterest and I come across our quizzes, and I know that someone else has pinned that to Pinterest. It wasn't me, because I can't edit it, right? And so that's what you want to do. You want to make it real easy for other people to share your stuff. And so then it's not just you sharing. It's like double dipping. It's double dipping money.
Yeah. We want that. We want the like multiplier effect. We want that. That's absolutely brilliant. So then that like, okay, so that's because I mean, we give away stuff all the time, like done. Like whenever we're talking with people, I'm like over here making a list of things that I'm going to do. That's like on the list of things. That's great. So now I have a different question though, and it doesn't necessarily negate, and I'm usually the person who asks the mean questions. So here I am asking the mean question. So it won't necessarily negate what we're talking about because it's great already. But do you have a sense of whether the people who are getting like that? So like how? Okay, best way to ask this question: how many people, like, what do you think the ratio is of people who are downloading your free materials to people who are buying your books and other for sale items? Because your website looks great. Like you've got a lot of stuff going on it. Like they have a lot of opportunities to buy, which is wonderful. So it's not just books. So like, what do you think the ratio is of people who are like moving from that, like, I'm a homeschooling mom and I'm so happy to have free resources, onto buying?
I would love to know that, Marty. That would be awesome to know. But I don't know. I mean, you might get people that use our stuff for 2 years and then suddenly they see one of our activity books and they're like, oh, I kind of like these guys. What else do they offer? But, it's hard to tell. We give away a lot of stuff for free, mainly because we're actually trying to help parents and teachers in developing countries, and they cannot afford a lot of the materials that are out there. And so we're sort of quite missions minded. So in that respect, we don't actually care if 90% of people just use our stuff and never buy, as long as it's useful to them. But even if 10% are buying, and all I can say is since we started offering the downloadable activity books, we started that last September, and so we just keep adding those. Like, sales are increasing and repeat buyers are increasing, and so the trajectory is upwards, if you know what I mean, once people find out that we offer. And actually the idea for the activity books came from a customer who said, oh, do you have all your activities in one place, instead of kind of going through the website and specific stuff. And I'm like, that's a great idea. I could actually bundle things together. And so that's what I did. I found a woman, Sunette, in South Africa, who does beautiful work, and we just created templates, and then I give her the content for a book, and she sort of she lays it out. She's a book designer, and we just to and fro until we get it 100% correct, and then we put it on the website. And that's. But you know what, Marty? I don't think we'll ever know, because we just don't have the technology to track that kind of thing. So we're just pleased that people are buying the books, because it helps fund what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because to create stories like we've been doing, there's a lot of expense that comes with that. And so we've funded it mostly ourselves. And so the activity books are a great opportunity for people to support us, so we can keep creating books, that can help others. So it's kind of like the cycle of life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like, one of the things that like I have noticed so far in all the people that we've gotten to talk to is that like mission driven seems to equal success. Like, people who really can tell you why they're doing what they're doing, and who they're doing it for. Like, it seems like that translates into is like moving more product, like is selling more books, is like having their books and their work reach more people. So that's really cool. And what you're talking about so far is all free and like costs a little bit of upfront time, but doesn't require maintenance. So if you now sold 5 activity books, then you are dramatically in the black on that. You know what I mean? Like, that's great. Okay. And you've said also that like your sales are increasing like over time, and that's the goal. Because it's just indicating that more and more people are becoming more and more invested over time, which is
they trust the brand. We are a little bit different to a lot of because you get a lot of Bible stories and things like that. But we're a little bit different. We've got some sort of unique selling points, if you put it. Our characters are darker skin. A lot of Bible stories you get out there, everyone's very white, blonde hair, blue-eyed. But because we're very missions-minded, we're reaching to developing countries, where people often have darker skin, and so they're appreciating that. Another thing is we try and keep it quite biblical, and we get feedback that, oh, we really like your stuff, it's kind of biblical, which is a little bit sad. That's our selling point, but there you go. But yeah, with the activity books, as you add, it's just like any author, the more books you have for sale, hopefully the more sales you're going to get, because you have more for people to buy. So that's what we're finding. So we try and add a book a month at the moment, and yeah.
All right. So I had a chance to read through your the guide that you wrote for Mark Dawson's community, and we'll put a link to that in the show notes for people who haven't had an opportunity to take a look at that yet. But it's like filled with information. Like, it has so much information in it, but I'm hoping that you'll give us the extra stuff, like a little bit lagniappe, because I know that, and you were saying too before we got on air that you were catering that piece to understanding that most of Mark Dawson's audience is writing for adults, but that you had a lot more stuff in there that you could have put in there that were for kids. So far, what I have on my list of tricks from you is to make sure that we use vertical images, to create more boards, right? To add a URL to every image that we post, and that we're making sure that coloring pages and activity pages, essentially anything that makes life easy for homeschoolers or teachers. So what else? What else can we be on the lookout for if we're trying to start this Pinterest thing and see if we can make it work for us?
Sure. Well, I think because there's a lot of, if you look on Pinterest for kids activities, there's a lot of stuff out there. I think you got to niche down. There are coloring pages for Africa on Pinterest. So I think you got to start getting specific. For example, I've got a friend who writes for children, and she creates books for sort of 3-4-year-olds, and it's about a little boy who uses his imagination. So her focus is on imagination, helping kids, encouraging kids to use their imagination. So her message is always about using your imagination. If you just kind of did a coloring page of, a girl carrying a school bag going to school, there's a lot of images like that out there. So I really think you want to figure out what's your niche and niche down to that, because when people are, typing in their search request, they're often going to be niching down. So I think that's one thing. So our niche is kind of biblical stuff. So we just focus on that niche.
So can I ask about that exact point? So it's a search engine, and people are typing things in. So how does your image come up? Is it how you're labeling it, like how your description, the words you use, do you give it a title? How does that work?
Yep. So your description is really important. And so I just went and actually, probably a couple of years ago, I sort of had to think, how can I optimize my images so they're found on Pinterest? And so when you type in a search into Pinterest, into the Pinterest search bar, it gives you a lot of suggestions, as you type, a bit like maybe Amazon or Google. And so you can see what people are typing in. So they might be typing in printable coloring page or something like that. And so I make sure in my description that I include those words. So I might, I don't know, say I have a coloring page from the book of Deuteronomy or something, and I know that parents are looking for, say, coloring pages for the Torah. I might say Torah coloring page for kids in the description, because that's what people are typing in. So that's a really good way. And then once you've done it once, you just sort of rinse and repeat. But that's a way that I would find out what words to include in your description. So I think it's a mixture of the right description and also how many times your post has been repinned. So obviously, if it's a popular one, it's going to pop up, just like Google, it's going to pop up higher in the search results.
Mm-hmm. Do you know whether, is it just the So when people repin, my understanding of Pinterest is like pretty minimal, although I do have a few boards going, mostly for like when I was going to do a project, right? So like I was like, I'm planting a butterfly garden. So then I pinned all the plants that I wanted and had a visual kind of that whole bulletin board, scrapbook, vision board effect. But then also each of those pictures, as you mentioned, like linked out to a place where I could buy that plant if I couldn't find it locally. So then so that's like the extent of my Pinterest knowledge right there. So when you're saying people are sharing the pin, like is it like them sharing or is it them pinning it on their own thing? Like, is that two different things for Pinterest?
Yeah, so they're pinning it to their own boards.
Okay. And then when you pin something to your board, then when your friends log into Pinterest, then they can see that you pinned it. And so then it passes through your friends' feeds. Is that the idea?
If they're following you.
Oh, true. Okay.
Yeah. So you've got to be following people to see what pops up in the news feed. You generally don't get much in the news feed that isn't from people that you aren't following. That's the whole idea.
So is follows just as important on Pinterest as it is on something like Instagram and Facebook, or not so much?
Yeah, it's important because otherwise the only other way people can find your stuff is by searching. So it is important, but it's only part of the picture. So people can find you two ways. They follow you and your images will appear in their newsfeed when they go onto Pinterest and they scroll through and just seeing what's popping up on a daily basis, and they can find you when they search. So you kind of got this two-pronged strategy. So our pins are very popular, but we only have 3,600 and something followers on Pinterest.
Okay. Only poor.
So I was going to say, what's a good number of followers on Pinterest?
That sounds good to me.
I mean, some people have hundreds of thousands, but it's just it just depends if you're a brand or. But we get so much engagement that I'm thinking it's not really a numbers game with followers because it is a search engine. They've got another way to find you.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you've kind of got two ways to find you on Pinterest. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's really good.
Yeah.
All right. So, and maybe for me, like as a user, I think that I don't log into Pinterest very much because most of my friends are fashion-y people. So then like when I log into Pinterest, I see like a bunch of clothing items and I don't really care. So then I'm like, this is not useful to me, except in the very limited way that I use it. So maybe I probably should be following people, but no, I don't need that because then I would just like waste a bunch of time on Pinterest. But that's what we want for others, is for them to be following people who include us. That are giving them things that they actually need in their
we
lives.
also use the search function as well. You don't necessarily need to follow someone. Like often when I'm looking for ideas, I just punch something in and see what comes up. And then if they're really interesting, I might follow them. But I don't really follow a lot because I know I can find through the search.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's,
and so then if you're that way, then other people must be too. Not everyone, but at least some other people.
Yeah, I mean, some people are Pinterest crazy. I mean, they just have, hundreds of boards with all sorts of ideas. Like, I mean, if I was, say, a Sunday school teacher, and you go around looking for ideas, Pinterest is great. So,
all right, fabulous.
The thing that I forgot to add was that you can actually join group boards. That's another way to get your posts.
What does that mean? Say more about that.
So you can have your individual account on Pinterest where you create boards and you pin to your own boards and you just develop. So when you go on to say Bible Pathway Adventures, you'll see we've got like maybe 60 boards all filled with mainly our own stuff. Some. But with group boards, you can join and then you can pin pins to their boards, and their boards often have like thousands of followers. So that's another opportunity to be seen.
Okay. All right, very cool.
And there's a website called Pin Groupie, and you can go on and find group boards and request to join. And you can see how many followers they have. So I've joined a couple of group boards. Some of them have like 10, 20, 30,000 followers. And so I pin stuff specifically to those boards so they're seen more.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can you just pin anything to anyone's board? Like, it's not like Facebook where someone's going to go like, that's not what this group is for. Like, do you know what I mean? What's the etiquette around groups on Pinterest?
Well, I guess you're only going to post stuff that's relevant to the kind of board it is. Okay. So, for example, say you join a board that is all about, I don't know, Bible quizzes, and then someone constantly posts pins about lawnmowers. Kind of, it's you might get, you know, a message from the moderator. So, you know, keep on theme here, people. But yeah, as long as it's, I mean, they can easily kick you off, right? So it's sort of not really in your interest to do that. But I don't know, I've never received anything from anyone saying, hey, what you're posting's not cool, because you just kind of keep it to, just use your brain, keep it to the theme of the board. Yeah.
Don't go spamming people on Pinterest. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And don't go, like if they say, you know, just, you know, only 5 images at most a day, you know, just stick to the rules.
Right. Okay. So there are rules and sort of like, yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah. Well, it's the rules that the person who created the board made up. So they might say, hey, you know, don't post anything, don't post any products, just post inspirational stuff, or only post 5 times a day max because they don't want spamming. But, you know, they have the control, right? So if you break the rules, they can just like, see ya.
And so can you start your own groups?
Yep.
On Pinterest?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
You can make every board that you create, you can make it open to other people. And so you might create like, I don't know, a children's indie podcast board, and you leave it open and invite people to contact you, and you add them as a contributor to that board. And then everyone's just posting their, you know, book covers, activities, whatever. And so that's
a cool idea. Maybe we should do that.
Yeah. And then you can just moderate what comes through, but just kind of make it clear, you know, if what people can post or not post. And and then you might have like, there might be, you know, 30 children's authors, and we're just all putting out, you know, our book covers or interesting articles that we've found that are useful to children's authors. Just, you know, whatever you want to do. So that's a way. That's the only way you really do community on Pinterest. It's not like Facebook where you have the groups and everything. People don't really comment on Pinterest. Like, you can comment, but people don't really comment.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not a thing at all. It's just about pinning and repinning and pinning to your own boards and pinning to group boards.
All right. So are there things that you like, some of like a couple of the things that you've said so far, like the coloring pages and the activity sheets, like that's very particular to children's book authors. Are there other things that tips that you can think of that are particular to children's book or middle grade authors?
I'm just trying to think. You could, I mean, I think this is where the value of having a blog comes in, because you can pin every blog post to Pinterest. Like, make sure you just have a nice cover image. But you could, it just depends what you're writing about. And if you want to be helpful to others. So you might, you know, be writing for children, and you might, I don't know, say you have, I'll use my friend for example. You know, she writes about kids using their imagination. So she'll create, you know, write blog posts that give parents ideas on how they can stimulate their children using the imagination, and then she'll pin those to Pinterest. And so people might type in, how can I, you know, how can my child use imagination? And her blog post might come up, and so people are going to click on it. It takes you through to their website. It takes it through to her website, and then they get to see her blog, read her blog content, but they're also on her website, and so they might check out. So I think it's about providing useful, valuable content, and also sorry.
No, go for it.
Yeah. But I was just actually thinking of something I hadn't thought of that is really right. It's content marketing. So it's a way of, if you don't have a large marketing budget, content marketing is a really good way of driving traffic to your website or author platform, because you're just being useful and it's only your time, really. But one thing you can do, one thing that we do, is we don't really, apart from our activity book covers, we're not sort of constantly screaming, buy my book, buy my book. What we do is I might create like a Bible quiz, and I'll put it on Pinterest, and all it is a Bible quiz. You know, click here to download. There's no advertising or nothing. But when they get to my website, on some of those quizzes, I'll have a banner across the top, and it might say, you know, check out our 100 Bible quizzes activity book. And people are like, oh, that looks interesting.
So not a banner across the top of the printable, but a banner on that page so that the people know that you have more to offer. Okay.
So you're not constantly like screaming, buy my stuff. You're just content marketing, but when they arrive on your website, what are you showing them that leads them to, you know, perhaps purchase your product? And so the way we do it is we add a banner, but equally, you know, you could create something on that actual activity that talks about what else you offer, but we try and keep the activities free of advertising. We just, you know, maximum value, but they land on our website. At some point, they're going to see a banner which will direct them to our store, to a product that's kind of relevant. So for example, I might create a Bible word search for parable of the Good Samaritan. When they hit that activity on our website, I've got a banner saying, hey, check out our parables of the Bible activity book. And you can get, you know, download, you know, 100 pages, and it's, you know, a reasonable cost. And so it's like, And so that's a way that I think that's one of the reasons why we're seeing an increase in sales is, we're providing a lot of value so people don't mind so much when you're saying, actually, I've got something you could possibly buy.
Yeah. And I like the way that you like phrase it on your website, or at least in one place that I bumped into on your website, where it's like, hey, like we have this mission, and if you would like to support our mission, one way to do that would be to buy a book because we use that money to help support our mission. So then that's like super clear and a good way of making sure that people understand that what you're trying to do is provide a valuable service to the world. So I have a quick question that we're almost out of time. So Elena, get yourself together. So I have one question that's not exactly on Pinterest. So from like looking at your website, it looks like that you have both print books and like electronic books that are for offer. Are all of your books being sold through Amazon, like the electronic ones too? Or are people able to buy like digital copies of your workbook on your website?
So we have ebooks, but they are available for free download on our website. So what we do for each story is we have what you call a teacher pack that you can download for free, and that includes a free ebook, lesson plans, coloring pages, and a text-only file. So it's a real resource for teachers and parents, right? And that's completely free. We used to put our ebooks on Amazon, but I'll be honest, well, one, we never did any marketing, but two, I just think it's a hard road selling children's illustrated books on Amazon in an ebook format. So in the end, we pulled it because we decided to start focusing on print. I think print for children is kind of where it's at. So that's one thing. So we don't sell the ebooks. We give the ebooks away for free. We sell the printed books on Amazon, and then we sell the downloadable activity books, which are PDFs. We sell them directly off our website. So those are kind of the three ways you can get hold of our books.
All right. So, but when you said like the PDFs that you're selling off your website, you're selling them, or people are just able to download them for free?
No. So any activity book available in the store, there's a cost to that. And that can range from $2.50 to $9, which is actually pretty good value for the quality you get. And so, I mean, we end up giving it free to missions and things like that because we're all about supporting missions. But generally, it's a way for us to cover our costs so we can create more stories and keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So
No, that's great. No. Yeah, no, because there are not, I don't know that many. I know like a couple of indie authors who are writing for adults and who have built up a huge following, who are essentially selling ebooks direct from their website. But I don't know very many children's book authors. So when I bumped into that on your website, I was like, oh, I need to ask her about that because I wanted to know like how hard was it to set up? Was it worth it? Like, you've answered a lot of that, but I guess just the one little bit that you didn't happen to say in your spiel there was whether or not you feel like it is like, is it generating income? Do you feel like it's worth the energy to have set up to to have that coming straight from your website instead of going through some third party.
Oh yeah, I mean, the thing is, if you sell a book on Amazon, they take 30%. Yeah, whereas selling direct from your website, gosh, I mean, we would keep like 96% of any sale, because all you've got is the PayPal fee, or we use Stripe for credit card payments, or the Stripe fee, and it's like maybe a maximum of 3%. So yeah, I think the key with selling on your website, you've got to have the traffic, and that's where content marketing comes in. It's like offer useful stuff to get people to your website, and then at some point they might check out what you sell. But it's about, yeah, just building up the brand and building up that trust, and it just takes time. So we've been, going about 4 years, probably 3 years, and so people have been using our stuff for a while. And even, I got an email the other day from a family, and they said, we've been using your materials for the last 2 years, and now they've just bought their first activity book.
That's great, though. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah,
the long tail of children's book publishing.
So I think selling on your website, I mean, for us, we've got it all automated. So someone said, oh, you can earn money while you sleep. I'm like, yeah, that's the idea. So we've just got it all automated. And but yeah, I prefer to sell off our website than Amazon any day. So for digital, but again, you just got to have the traffic to your website to make that work. Otherwise, no one's going to see your stuff. And also with our printable books, they're designed to be printed at home on a printer, and we just couldn't do that on Amazon. I guess you could start to print on demand, but it's a Mobi format. I don't think you can even print that off on your home computer.
It doesn't come out nicely.
Yeah,
I've had people like buy the ebook and then like just like kind of by hook or by crook like figure it out. And there was like this one woman who was working in an after school program, and she gleefully sent me like pictures of like the kids with these like horrible looking printouts of this book. I was like, oh darling, I'm gonna send you some books for the children. This is yeah.
Well, ours are formatted. Our activity books are really nicely designed, and so they're designed. They're very high res, and so when they print out real nice. They print out US letter, and so we just couldn't, even if we wanted to, we couldn't really sell them like that on Amazon. So we have to sell them on our website, or I guess we could have other people sell them for us. But we're kind of being forced with the technology as forced. So we have our printed books selling on Amazon, and we print and ship out of the US for that. But our downloadable PDFs, it's all off our website.
So with selling on your website, I always get nervous because of that horrid, is it called like VAT tax or something, and if someone buys it in Europe or the UK, it's like, oh no, my taxes are going to get complicated. How do you work around that?
I don't know, Eleanor.
That is a valid and fair answer.
I look at that.
Let's leave it at that.
I look at that and I'm like, GST.
Yeah. I think that some of the like services will handle that for you. Like I don't know if Stripe does, but like some of the services will add VAT if the person is like coming from like a country that does that. But I don't know which ones they are. That's not like an area of my expertise.
Yeah, I do use Sendow, like what Sendow does, because like they can handle the VAT, but I don't want to sell anywhere where there's VAT because it will automatically make my accounting extremely, extremely complex. So like what Sendow does is it will actually put up a fraud alert. So if anything sells through to Europe, it'll say fraud alert. You can either say yes to this person buying off you and then it will be delivered, or you can say no and decline it and it won't be delivered. So I do know that there is that, but I just wondered if there was something else I didn't know about to let us be able to sell wherever we want.
Yeah, no, we use Sendow as well. That's what we use, and same thing. In fact, we've only ever received one fraud alert. Most of our markets in North America, I mean, we get a little bit out of the UK, but it's just so negligible that it's kind of like, I don't need to know about it right now, Eleanor, so I just...
But when you want to expand, you have to like think about that.
I know. I park that for another day, and I'm forced to.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying though.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm an author. I'm not an accountant.
This is all fair, and I don't want you to give accounting advice on the show because
I know.
I don't want any of us to be responsible for that. Like, you gotta go see your people in your state / country / region, whatever you need. Like, go talk to like an actual professional in that realm. It has been so good to talk to you. Like, I literally, if you are like a person who's looking at the video feed, I've got like a solid page of I should do this. Here are things that I need to fix, notes. This has been super useful for me, so I hope it has been really useful for other people. Elena, do you have another thing that you want to try to slide in there before we sign off?
No, I don't. Not today.
Well, you did have an extra, like you had another thing, but
well, Pip is just so thorough that she answered everything so beautifully that it left me with nothing. So I'm happy.
That's really good. That's hard to do. Like, if Elena's not a person that's like always like so easily satisfied. So that's good. So where
okay. Can I just ask? Okay, just one. Okay, just one.
I was gonna say, where can people find you online? And you're like,
I
no.
know.
Okay.
Well, it popped into my head because I'm like, okay, so now I have a big to-do list. So a really quick question is, like, how long does all this Pinterest stuff take? Like, am I going to have to find a part-time Pinterest person to now pin all this stuff? Or is it kind of, you can slide it in, it's an hour a week? That's my last question.
Well, how long is a piece of string, Eleanor? I mean, you've got to have the content to pin. So that's going to take up most of your time. What are you actually going to post? And then once you actually start posting, there's something called oh my goodness, I've just Tailwind, and I use that to schedule. So you can schedule whatever you post. You can schedule it multiple times.
Schedule things for Pinterest. Like, it's not just like stick it up all up there. That's a good thing to mention, because I totally would have just gone and stuck it all up there. Like, next Thursday, it would have been my Pinterest day, and I would have done it all at once. Okay. So
yeah. So that's what I used to do. I used to do all kind of like, I just put a quiz up and it would just, post to say Bible quizzing board, and that would be it. But recently I've discovered Tailwind, and what that does is allows you to schedule, multiple times to different boards. And so that's a big time saver. And so you just don't be scared to like repin a post multiple times across different boards. Just just make the intervals long enough. But that's what you want. So you might find out, say Noah's Ark Bible quiz, I've probably posted that like 10 times. Doesn't matter, because no one's ever going to see everything you post, because it's kind of like Facebook. They're regulating the algorithm. So don't be afraid to kind of blast it out. I mean, obviously you don't want to do like 10 Noah's Ark quizzes every day. So I just interval it out, and that's what using a scheduler like Tailwind will allow you to do.
okay.
But in the beginning, the time is in the content creation. That's where your time's going to take. The scheduling actually doesn't take much time at all. And so it's just about getting real efficient, like maybe creating templates that you're just dropping content in, to dropping your images in. And that's what I do. I just have templates, and I'm like, so I can do something kind of fairly quickly, or I repurpose content. So at the moment I'm creating an activity book, which is just worksheets, and I'm just pulling content I've already created for the quizzes activity book, and I'm just pulling out a little bit of here and there and plugging it in. So it's just, the more content you have, the more you can repurpose, and
Aren't you glad I asked that question? See, my brain is not.
I always am glad for your last question. They're always super useful. Sometimes they're like the best question of the show. So I look forward to it.
And then I was like, oh yeah, but it's kind of for people who are, into Pinterest. But anyway, you asked the question, so yeah.
That's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. So Pip, where can people find you online?
So if they want to see everything that we've been talking about, they can go to BiblePathwayAdventures.com and check us out. And from there, you'll be able to link through to all our social media platforms.
That is perfect. Pinterest. Thank you so much. Yeah. Including Pinterest. And Elena, where can people find us?
And you can find our wonderful, very nicely written show notes. I say that because I do them. If you have any complaints that they're sometimes a bit scanty, it's because I'm in a rush or I don't know how to say something and I just want to put in brackets, just listen to the podcast. But all useful links and most important jewels that come out of our interviewees' mouths can be found at www.indiekidlitpodcast.com.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Pip.
Thank you.